Milo, is that you?
There, I think I got it. Computers are weird.
They can be annoying as
Ugh.
They do so many wonderful things.
7 minutes in. 7 seconds.
Sorry. I know you hit the button.
I always hit the button. It's because it gives a spontaneous reaction.
There you go. I was being spontaneous.
Yeah, you were being spontaneous. And another minor leaguer got his wings.
Indeedly did.
Because this is on the public channel.
Oh, goal horn! Goal horn!
Yeah, we did the goal horn. We did the whole.
Sweet.
But the goal horn was like...
It's 7 seconds in. That's got to be pretty close to a record.
I think
like
so, yeah.
Right off the face-off seconds.
Yeah, boom, in. And it's a first round of the playoffs.
It augurs well for the rest of the game.
Yeah. You always got to feel bad for the other team, right? They're like 7 seconds. Like, you know, some of the guys on the bench are going, really? Really? You let one in already?
Yeah, the top line, you let one in already? Like what? You know?
Yeah.
And the goaltender, the goaltender's going like, what the hell just happened?
I was just putting my Gatorade bottle back.
Yeah. How did that get by me?
You know what? So anyways, I was getting ready to do this little intro here, and I plugged in my headphones, and they wouldn't come through the computer. So then I realized,
oh, jeez.
So I restarted the computer, and of course everything's fine now. But the thing that amazes me, do you ever do that where you haven't turned your computer off for a while, and you go to hit restart, and like this? I didn't know that program was open. I didn't know that program.
Oh, yeah. All of a sudden, you get a list of 20 things. Wow. Yeah. No wonder she's kind of sluggish.
No wonder it's not working. It's confused.
Yeah, it's trying to do way too much. So, yeah, it's good for it to shut down and rethink and reboot now and then.
Our buddy David Start, he never turns his off.
I quite often don't turn mine. I'll sometimes turn the monitors off, but I quite often leave the box on for days on end.
Yeah, I don't turn my laptop off that much. I usually just close the lid and it goes to sleep, and then I open it up again.
Hopefully it wakes up.
And then a week or two or a month down the road, you plug in the headphones and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, what's wrong? I go to I set preferences are set right. I'll turn it off. I'll restart it. Please work when I restart. And it does.
And 99% of the times that solves the problem.
99% of the time. So the reason we're here today is because we're going to listen to Rich Wisneski's Kelly questions.
Okay.
And I had kind of stopped broadcasting the Kelly questions because I wasn't sure, because on the statistics, the
stats, just go stats.
Stats.
That's what all the cool kids say, stats. You know, the sportscasters. We're looking at the stats, you know.
Yeah, we're looking at the stats. We're doing
Although they have a statistician to look after it for them, but yeah, looking at the stats.
We're doing analytics.
There we go.
How about
that? Yeah.
We're working the algorithms.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, on the stats, just by a little bit, but on the stats, the Kelly questions are the least listened to program.
Oh, really?
Not by a lot, but a little bit. So then I thought, okay, well, people aren't as interested in that. So then I kind of stopped broadcasting them. And then I said to a couple of people, just offhand, like I'm talking to you, only we weren't recording it. I said, oh, yeah, I've been putting those up. And then people are going, and I had 3 or 4 people say, no, I like those. Keep them going. So I thought
they're a bit of a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that last liter they have at the grocery store, and you get the milk for $2 a gallon or whatever, but then everything else you're paying way too much for. At least you're getting them in the door and listening to what's out there.
So then I thought, hey, you know what would make this even more fun is if we did a little intro. We explained why they haven't been on for a while.
Yes, which I think we just did.
And then we could do a little intro, and then we might make them slightly more interesting.
Yeah, what have we got to lose, right?
Or slightly more boring.
That's too. The best we're going to hope is for be moderately entertaining.
I have a couple of other items to discuss too.
Okay.
There's a little something extra in your pay.
Sweet.
Hey, what'd you think of the new AML regular shirts? Steve, the T-shirt guy, made.
I love it. The only thing is the logo to me seems a little too small. It could be a little bit bigger.
I thought so.
But then everybody's looking at what the hell's wrong with your shirt? I said, no, it's supposed to be the way. It's not a crappy printing.
Yeah. I thought that
it looks like some of those lesser quality companies you put out, and after you wash them once, it's all peeling off. Well, but it is not. It is a quality shirt, but I think the logo is maybe just a titch too small compared to the other ones.
Yeah.
So if you can make it a little bit bigger, not ginormously huge, but
no,
a little bit bigger than what it is. But otherwise I like it. I've been wearing them the last week here, and I've gone through the wash once and survived. So.
Well, here's the deal. I like to let Steve, the T-shirt guy, get involved.
Yes.
So it was he was the one. He calls it distressed.
Yes.
It's a distressed look, which actually I kind of like.
It's kind of like, others may call it a crappy printing job, but hey, whatever. No, that's okay. That's our distressed look. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So he's been getting more and more into these AML designs and shirts. And,
well, good for him. Like he knows what he's doing, and if he's got that bit of an artistic eye, then why not?
Well, yeah, and I gave him one of the original oval stickers, because I keep putting them on his desk, and he says, well, why don't we do a T-shirt like this? And I go, well, for starters, it's a 4-color hit. That's what you call it in the biz. It's a hit. Yes,
a hit. Okay.
Yeah,
because you got to run through 4 colors, and that obviously increases price.
Yeah, but if you work there, it doesn't hurt too bad.
No,
I never thought at my age I'd be working in a T-shirt shop.
Never thought at my age I'd be doing much of anything. I'm kind of surprised I actually made it to 65 at times.
Yeah, I can think of a lot of people that are surprised that I made it past 62, but that's another story.
Well, there you go. That's another story for another podcast.
So anyways, Steve,
yes.
So Steve likes to be involved. He says, hey, we should do this one in this distress. And I'm thinking, yeah. And he had these gray shirts, and I'm thinking,
yeah.
He had them actually laying around the shop because somebody ordered them and they never used them. He said, we could try it on this. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And he says, I think we should make the logo a little smaller.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I don't know. No, I'm telling you, we should make the logo a little smaller. So I'm thinking to myself, A, I'm probably getting the shirts for not too much. B, he's not charging me full rate for the 4-color hit.
Well, there you go.
And C, he seemed to be very enthusiastic. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to let him do whatever he wants.
As the expression goes, 2 or 3 ain't bad.
Yeah, exactly. And so we got him done. And he says, well, on the smaller shirts, it looks okay. And I said, well, yeah, but model railroaders aren't the majority of them aren't the smaller guys.
No, they're like your 2X plus kind of guys.
Yeah.
A lot of them, as the expression goes, exceed plate C, if you want to talk about the freight car term.
The very first time I started to order off him after my buddy John passed away, and I started going to him, he says, I'd say, okay, I need 6 3X and 6 XX and a couple of 4. He says, you don't need that many 3X. And I went, yeah, I do. He says, no, this is way too many. And I'm like, no, it's not. He says, you're going to need more than 1 or 2 mediums. I'm like, no, I'm not.
No, not.
And he said, so then after the first order, he says, so I bet you didn't get rid of, you bet you still got some of those 3Xs. And I went, no, they're gone.
Got a few mediums kicking around still, but all the other ones are gone.
Yeah. So anyways.
Yes, model railroaders, as we would say, are plus size guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Or was it our friend, I'm gapping on her name. Our flight attendant friend.
Oh, yes. Tracy Boyd.
Tracy Boyd.
The official flight attendant.
Model railroaders tend to be persons of size.
Yes. The very first day that Tracy and I ever met, we'd only known each other in person for a couple of hours. She very politely pointed out that I was a person of size, that I would need like at least three or 4 seats.
That's right. And then you're recovering that shock, and
then I look over,
sticking his finger in your milkshake.
And I'm looking over, and there's Hard Part with his pulling out a big gob of milkshake with his finger. It's like, what is going on here?
Jeez.
So anyways, so that's how so I think you're right. I think the next batch we make, I think maybe the logo just needs to be like 1.5 inches wider.
That's what I'm thinking. Not that much, but like a 1/2 inch all around or something. Yeah, just because it's a little on a smaller shirt, say like a medium or small, that size might be good. But for us plus-size people, a little bit bigger would be better, I think.
Yeah, so we'll have to... I'll tell him to... Maybe we'll have to... No, that would drive him nuts. We're going to have to find a universal size.
Two sizes of logos just drive them nuts?
Yeah. We'll have to find a universal size.
Yeah.
But
the shirts are good quality shirts. They're nice quality shirts. Yeah.
Only the best from Steve.
There you go.
So that's why we're here. We're here to introduce the latest version of the Kelly questions with our buddy Rich Wisneski.
Right.
Rich isn't very interesting, but we pressed ahead anyways.
Yes.
He is a very interesting guy. Good guy. Rich is a good guy.
Yeah, anybody who hangs around Uncle Dave Abelius can't be too bad.
I'm looking forward to meeting Rich in person. I think him and I will hit it off. So that's what we're doing, and it was a lot of fun. And
what? There's more?
I thought, you know what? This is a golden opportunity. A golden
opportunity. Yes.
For us to do pre-show notes. This will be like the first time we've ever done this.
Do I need my notepad out, my pencil?
I don't know. Maybe. Because tonight, later on today, we're going to interview again Mark Herrick and Don Iris.
Okay. Donnie Iris, a great singer, had a great tune with whatever it was, Layla or...
Oh, really?
Donnie Iris is a different... It's
I know.
Different spelling, but I know we know.
Oh, it's a different spelling.
That's there. Yes.
So Mark Herrick and Don Iris, do you remember those guys from before?
Yes.
And Mark lives in the Northeast, and Don retired to Sebastian, Florida. He's not
somewhere
very...
down there,
somewhere on the Atlantic side, about an hour and a half from my house, which I'll never get to again. And so then Mark...
Did your house survive the hurricane? I guess it was on the main blow, wasn't it? There.
Yeah, it was outside of that. I would have gone for sure if I'd had the opportunity. And then wasn't that long ago that Don flew north just for a visit to operate the railroad, Mark's Railroad again.
Oh, nice.
And Don has, when he moved to Florida, he built, I'm thinking 12 by 20 shed. I don't remember the exact dimensions.
It's something like that size. It's not huge. It's not small. It's kind of like...
Yeah, he's been going...
Right in the middle between a reasonable size.
Yeah, and one of them just looks like Mark just celebrated a birthday. So that'll be like the first thing we ask him.
Yes.
How old are you? And so anyways, I thought it'd be fun to talk to these two guys again. So this is so do we have any questions we want to ask them?
I guess with Don is when he's starting over again and obviously new slate and what he's done, is there anything he would think about doing differently than he's already doing differently from before?
And I want to talk to him about his backdrops.
Yes.
His backdrops are really... So I want to find out. So these guys got a great friendship through model railroading, and we want to explore this fully. So that's what we're doing. So this is what our pre-show notes are like. Everybody has now experienced the entire complexity of the AML pre-show notes.
Okay, and there's a guarantee that we'll remember this in the next 5 hours?
I don't see that happening.
Yeah, no. But anyhow, we can say we had a pre-show discussion. And did you, Mr. Schrang, on this date, did you actually have a pre-show discussion with the mailboy? Yes, Your Honor, I did.
Oh, so I guess it was Don's birthday recently on August the 26th.
Yes.
Wow. I wonder, and I guess he's like 65 or 66. Geez, I hope he's been to see a doctor.
Yeah, there's an old joke, right?
I can't help myself. I just can't help myself. I don't know what's wrong.
They're lobbing them in like batting practice. You just got to take advantage of it, right?
That's the other thing I'm going to talk to you about right this minute. So today on my page, I had posted a picture of me and Steve, the T-shirt guy.
Yes, doing the ballast, which is very interesting.
Yeah, there's railway tracks very close to Steve's place, and he's like, so why did they dump all that stone? I said, well, it's ballast. Well, what are they going to do with it? I said, well, they'll spread it out. Well, how? I said, I don't know. They'll have guys come along, or they'll have a machine. I said,
a machine come by and spread it on guys with shovels.
So then he insisted we had to go look at it.
Okay.
So then I took the picture.
It was an exciting pile of ballast.
Yeah. So then in the comments to my post, Bernard Helen posted about some little contraption for spreading ballast on HO track.
Yeah, a little HO scale ballast spreader.
And it's called
which I have heard there's still two schools of thoughts on. They either work great or they cause much grief and frustration to get pitched across the room. There seems to be no happy medium.
I've never even heard of the things. So then I put, what's that? And Tom Jacobs says, well, it's the Proses ballast spreader. All the cool kids have them. And I couldn't help it. I 5 minutes later, I replied to Tom Jacobs, well, now you're just serving up 80-mile-an-hour fastballs belt high across the plate, because he says all the cool kids have them.
Yes.
Which, of course, the obvious reply to that is, well, then why do you have one?
Yep.
But I figured, well, I'll just go with now you're...
That was deep. It's another Lincoln Homer.
That's out of the park.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, Bernard Helen liked my comment. He laughed at my comment. Anyways, that's it. That's everything. We killed 16 minutes and 42 seconds. We have either made this podcast more interesting or less interesting.
Or maintain status quo.
We've covered a lot.
Those are 3 options.
We covered a lot of ground. We may have had the fastest goal horn in the history of the AML nation.
Pretty close.
We've talked about this.
We'll get our statistician on that and check the stats.
Yeah, we got it, and we checked the Kelly. We talked about the Kelly questions.
We did.
We talked about computers and how you have to restart them.
Yes.
We talked about the Proses ballast spreader. I'm going to look that up.
We talk about T-shirts.
Oh yeah, T-shirt. We had a lengthy discussion of T-shirts.
This has been a multi-topic discussion. No doubt the viewers will be going, wow.
So,
but whether it be wow and amazement or wow, what are these guys, Mr. Dull or what?
Proses. Have you ever heard of these guys?
I have.
Really? Design innovation.
Those things have been around for quite some time.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never even heard of them. Are they British?
I'm not sure. But I've never had need for one, and
well, I've come up with their. I'm on their webpage.
Okay.
And it appears that it may be British. It may be British.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's British. So, anyways, the ballast spreader goes for, because it says here it goes for an HO scale or TTO. So I guess they don't even have HO. Oh yeah, there it is. It goes for 14 pounds.
That'd be British.
Oh, that's for Markland. HOOO ballast spreader with shutoff goes for 22 pounds. And then the one that looked like in the picture, HOOO advanced ballast spreader. Let me click on this picture. It goes for 32 pounds. It's got adjustable height setting, allows you to alter the depth of ballast and cope with different code rail. It has a shutoff valve. Now you can halt the flow of ballast while I would have just tipped the bag up. And I said, well, there, I've halted this.
Yeah, but back in the old day, the plastic bag, when you tip her up, you've halted the flow.
Oh, it's got wheels and everything.
Yeah.
Wow, look at that. Isn't that slick? You know what? That'll be our first question tonight. There's our show notes. Our first question, after we find out if Don's been to see a doctor. Well, then we'll ask him if either one of them has the Proses. Am I saying it right? Proses? Proses?
It might be Process. Proses? Process, maybe?
Process, yeah.
I'm saying they got a combo ballast spreader and glue thing.
Wow.
You look in their videos. So.
That wouldn't foul up too fast, would it?
Yeah, you'd think, but I don't know.
Yeah, so we'll ask them.
But it's kind of an interesting looking device.
It
is. There it is, the ballast spreader and glue combo.
Wow, the ballast spreader and glue combo. That's a recipe for disaster right
there. You'd think so.
I'm thinking it must be British. You know who we need to talk to about is Gordy.
Gordy would probably be able to tell us all about it. He probably knows the guy who makes them.
Gordy Robinson. We speak of Gordy Robinson, the president of the NMRA.
Yes, sir.
We got to get him back on the podcast now that he's had a little chance to do it.
Settle in.
And I'll give him a hard time about the digital magazine and all that stuff. All right, that's it. You know what to do next.
3 options. Moderately 6 out. It's either 6 out of 10. No. Happy Rails to you. No. Or Subway Chimes Go.
Yeah.
Subway Chimes Go.
Bruce.
Lionel.
Bruce, come up from the basement right away.
Okay, come here. Hang on. Yeah. What? What's up?
That's record time. That's record time. 47.
I did 2 steps at a time, man.
Yeah, 48 floors, and that was record time.
I'll tell you. Yeah.
It's yeah. It's time for the Kelly questions.
All right. And who's the lucky victim? Guest tonight.
Yeah. Remember that guy about a year ago? We interviewed him. His name is Rich, and he's friends with Jack and Dave.
You mean the boring guy?
Yeah, that guy. The guy that said he wouldn't be very interesting, and turned out he was 100% right.
Exactly.
And he works for him and his friend Dave Abelese and his other friend Jack and Al. We have to remember to talk about Al.
We need to find out more about Al as well.
We need to find out more about Al, because Al was the fourth man. You know who Al reminds me of?
Who's that?
Don't tell me. Let me hang on.
Okay.
Pete, the guy that was the drummer before Ringo.
Oh, that guy. Yeah.
It was Pete Best. Peter Best was the drummer before Ringo. And so he ended up not being Ringo. He ended up being not Ringo, not the drummer of the Beatles, and making bazillions and bazillions of dollars.
Exactly.
So anyways, Al seems to be the man. Rich was the man. Jack was the man of mystery.
Mm-hmm.
Dave was the guy that talks and drinks beer.
Yes.
Rich is the guy that was not interesting.
Yep.
But we don't know much about Al at all.
Al's the man with many question marks.
Yeah, many question marks.
Like there's a little cartoon, there'd be like little question marks all above his head.
Yeah, exactly. And he's not. I'm imagining Al to be about 5'6" and maybe tipping the scales at 350.
Ooh.
We'll have to find that out from Rich. So anyways, the fellow's name is Rich Wisneski. He works for the New Jersey Transit System along with his friends Al, Jack, and Dave. Al's retired now. And they all are New Jersey Transit guys. They're all running New Jersey Transit. Rich is in charge of, he's the liaison between the railroads and New Jersey Transit System, because New Jersey Transit sometimes runs an Amtrak rail. I had a really good question for him last time too, and I forgot to ask him. I'm going to ask him. You know what? I'm just going to ask him this question. I wonder about how railroads get their right of way. That's something I was going to ask him. Okay. Rich, come on in from the green room.
Okay, here I come.
Attaboy. Have you been in there the whole time? Were you there for like a year?
Yeah, it was a good nap.
I don't think it was a nap. It may have been the funny off-gassing coming out of certain things in there. But
have you noticed?
Yeah, let's call it a nap.
Have you noticed the last few times somebody comes out of the green room, there's kind of like this gaseous cloud that comes out with them?
Yeah. We might want to get that looked at.
Yeah. Something's going on in there. There's parts of this building I won't even go near.
Oh, you should see some of the stuff that you don't even go to, man. I've seen it. It's yeah.
So I have a question, Lionel. Have you ever walked past the mailroom?
No, I don't. I don't go anywhere near there. That's
so we don't know what it smells like down there.
Oh, I got Glade air fresheners going full bore down there, man. It's kind of got that basement funk from like 1950.
Yeah, the musty smell. The musty smell. Well, and the problem is when we built the Stuart L. Sterling building here in downtown Busted Knuckle, we built it on an old dinosaur graveyard that had started. It was covered in peat moss, and it was soft ground. That was the problem. And then they dug it up because they found out there was dinosaur bones. So then the whole structure became somewhat compromised. So there's leaking and there's water. It's a mess. So anyways, Rich, we're going to ask you the Kelly questions.
I'm looking forward to it.
And you're an avid listener of the show, aren't you? How'd you find the show?
I found this show because of Bob Frischella.
Okay.
Who you interviewed in 2018. And I had known Bob. He had done, when he was consulting, he had a project for New Jersey Transit. That's how I got to meet him. And then years later, I stumbled upon his railroad art that he does. He's a wonderful, wonderful railroad artist. And so I connected with him via Facebook. And then at some point, he made mention on there that he had just done this podcast. And I said, oh, well, I'll have to check that out. And so I listened to it, and that was how I got started.
Would you say?
As I recall, that was I think your co-host that night was the Spoon.
Ah, yes.
Yes, because those are the two S-scalers in the country.
The S-scale connection.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they make up the 1/3 of the entire S-scale population in the United States. And of course, Bob had that. He's a well-known, an excellent engineer, and he elongated the siding for the auto train in
Lorton. Yeah, that's right.
Lorton, yeah. He worked on that siding, and basically what happened was his firm was hired, and he saw that all they had to do was just extend the siding and move the switch. So him and his guys, they went and sat in Wendy's for about 3 months, and then they went back to CSX and said, "Well, yeah, just move the switch. That'll be $3 million."
Right, but the thing that made the project work was that the county was widening the so anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what made it all possible.
Yeah, exactly. Brilliant.
In other words, we got lucky.
Yeah, brilliant, man. So anyways, we're going to ask you the Kelly questions, which is a series of hard-hitting questions about your life in the hobby and your life in general, and people can find out all about you through this series of questions. Do you feel as though you're ready? You put on this tinfoil helmet. Is it a hat or a helmet, Bruce? Bruce is on mute.
He's on mute, yeah.
You cannot be on mute for the Kelly.
Yeah, sorry. No, I would say it's a sort of a cross between a hat and a helmet. Okay. Sometimes we make them a little more hat-like. Other times they're more helmet-like. So a hat mitt. Let's go with a hat mitt.
So, right. But I have to ask you guys, do they still make tin foil?
Well, everybody calls it tin foil. It's actually aluminum foil, but tin foil sounds much better than the aluminum foil helmet.
I don't know about you, Bruce, but my scoring is...
yeah, I'm at -35 already.
Yeah, when he starts questioning...
yeah.
Before we ever get started. That's not good. All right. So don't...
And then he's laughing at it for a few more.
Do you ever watch Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Is this another question?
Holy
Have you ever watched Whose Line Is It?
Has anybody ever started off at -350 before we got going question one?
Yeah, we're not even at question one, and there's been question. Yes, I've watched Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Right, so Drew Carey always says the points don't matter.
well, Drew Carey was wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Because on the Kelly questions, the points very much do matter.
Yes, very much.
So I'm at -395 right now.
So, Rich, which do you prefer, steam or diesel?
Diesel.
Any particular diesel?
I would say the SD45 is probably the one I would pick as the top of my list.
Yeah. Any particular reason why you like the SD45? I'd be more of a Jeep 35 guy myself.
Well, the SD45 for me, my two of the railroads I'm most interested in had SD45s.
Okay.
And I think the flare of the radiator grill or whatever that was made them a very distinctive looking locomotive as well.
All right. Okay. I can accept that. What's your favorite prototype railroad?
The New York Susquehanna and Western.
And how come? Grew up near it or
Grew
something?
up in that area in New Jersey. It served the state of New Jersey. And it was a very interesting railroad. It had a lot of business considering its size. Had commuter service, ran interesting RDCs and predecessor cars like that. Plus it had locomotive haul trains, lots of freight service, all Alco roster for many years. Just a very interesting railroad.
And where was its commuter service from and to, roughly?
The commuter zone went from the town of Butler, New Jersey, which is at about, I think that was milepost 38 on the railroad. For those not from the area, that would be a location that's about 30 miles northwest of New York City. And the commuter trains went as far as the Erie Railroad's Jersey City terminal on the waterfront, the Hudson River waterfront in Jersey City, New Jersey, where folks would get either a ferry or the underground path train to Hudson Tubes train to New York City.
Right. And is it still operating? Like I know for a long time there, it operated out from New York up to Syracuse and Utica. Is that pretty much what it's doing now through Binghamton?
Yeah. So the NYSW still exists today. It's metamorphosized itself somewhat back in the 80s. They operate the traditional main line of that railroad from the eastern terminal in the area of Jersey City as far as Sparta, which is about 60 miles. And then they use other lines that they've acquired or acquired rights to work their way up towards Binghamton, New York, and then eventually Syracuse.
Yeah, at Sparta, they had kind of northeast for quite a bit and kind of make a big loop back.
That's right. Yeah, they had to build a connecting track to go from one line to the other. That was 1987. Yeah. I want to say they built that.
Yeah, so it's not really a direct route. So, okay, I have this question. I don't know if your job is involved with this or not, or if you probably can answer this question. How do railroads obtain right-of-way?
Well, our railroad, of course, is an arm of the state, New Jersey government. So in our case, we work through our state Department of Transportation using the eminent domain process to acquire property.
So if you guys need to go through somebody's kitchen, it's just basically have at it.
Well, no, I mean, you have to go through a process and you have to pay fair market value, et cetera, et cetera. But, effectively, if that's what you have to do, you have that ability. But, a lot of times, politics or other things will enter the fray. And, sometimes, yes, legally you could do this, but it's not going to happen because of other reasons.
Right. So, all right, like I say, on NW or NYS&W needed some right away. Do they have that opportunity, or do they have to negotiate with landowners on an individual basis, or?
You mean like to build that connecting track?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. Of course, they're all good questions. I know. I said it again. But, in that case, I believe it was just one property owner that was affected. When you go back to the early days of railroads when they were building across Canada or across the U.S. and, how did they acquire and assemble all those properties? I believe that they also had the eminent domain powers that allowed them to kind of take and compensate, but, it wasn't simply negotiation. It was they had the upper hand.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's see. Question number 3. If you were rail fanning, would you rather photograph the trains or ride on them?
Photograph.
And you're quite a prolific. Have you had any photographs published?
Sort of. Nothing famous. No. I have over the years have had a picture or two in like Trains magazine or Rail Fan, things like that, but not. I'm certainly not prolific in terms of publishing. I've had some pictures in like a local book here, in the lake community I live in. They published a book of photos taken around the lake this year. I had 8 pictures in that. I take a lot of pictures and I share them, Facebook, what have you.
Would it be fair to say that being published isn't really a priority for you? You enjoy the taking of the pictures and publishing them, sharing them on social media and that kind of thing. That's what you enjoy the most. Yeah.
And, if anybody ever goes to my Facebook page and looks at my photos, you'll see that, I consider myself more of I don't know if this is a word, but a documentarian and less of an artist when it comes to photography. Like I like to take pictures and then explain, why it's an important picture or what have you. So one of my pet peeves about Facebook is when people take, 4 pictures of something. They chased a train from, Toronto to Barrie, and in their post they say, "Oh, here's pictures at X, Y, and Z," and then they post the 4 pictures, and the pictures themselves have no caption information. And the way Facebook works is, as soon as somebody comments on one of those pictures, it's going to start showing up in people's news feeds because of the comment, and there's not going to be any caption on it because it's pulled away from the original post. So my advice to everybody is to, even if you just copy the text you put into the post into each photo's caption, but you need to do that because otherwise you've got all these uncaptioned photos floating around the internet, and it's like I said, pet peeve.
Yeah, you should consider or think about creating some sort of a website because you're very interested in photography and you have a lot of interesting takes and thought process about it. You should do that.
Yeah. When I go on vacation, I tend to do like a nightly post that kind of recaps the day.
Right.
And I've had people tell me I should be doing like blog kind of thing with that.
Yeah, you should.
It doesn't necessarily need to be through Facebook, but again, I like to kind of share what I've been doing on the hopes that other people might try and visit this place or what have you. I do love to travel.
Yeah, I really think you should start a vlog. What do you think, Bruce? Are you on mute?
Absolutely, he should start a blog.
You can't.
No, I've been doing a little coughing and hacking my own. So.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's move along here, Rich, because even though you're not very interesting, we could end up chewing up a lot of time. If you could time travel, what era would you go to? Did you leave? Did he leave?
Yeah, I'm pondering my answer here because it's one of those ones that depends. I'll say the
time out. Bruce, I don't often speak for you, do I? I try not to. I try to let you.
Not to.
I try to let you have your own train of thought.
Yes.
I try not to be overpowering or anything like that. But in this particular case, I'm going to try to speak for you because I feel like you might be thinking the same thing as me.
All right.
You're starting to really annoy the heck out of us, Rich. Now you're pondering the answers. It's pretty straightforward. What, if you could time travel, what era would you go to?
The 1950s.
There you go.
There you go. See, that wasn't that hard.
The transition era of railroading?
Correct.
Okay. What was your first model train?
It was an HO train set for Christmas. I think it was AHM. At the time, this was around 1970 plus or minus. Lionel was going through some sort of a change, and their stuff was not easily available. That's what my parents were looking for because we were young. Myself and my siblings were young. We eventually did get a small Lionel set eventually, but the first one was an HO set. I believe it had a Santa Fe F7 diesel, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so everybody knows, I would class you as a model railroader because you're an active operator on many layouts in the New Jersey area, and you're an integral part of Dave Abley's layout. So you're not necessarily a modeler at home, but you're actively involved in the hobby and through operating. Is that a good scenario?
Okay. I don't disagree with anything you said.
Okay. During the interview or during this, have you disagreed with some of the things I've said, or?
I don't think so. But that interview was so long ago, I really can't remember.
That's true enough. Fair enough.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. You'll enjoy this next question because it was invented by your very own friend Dave Abley's. If you were going to use cereal to simulate an open load in an HO scale, a 70-ton hopper, what kind of cereal would it be?
Quisp.
Quisp? Oh, crisp or
no, Quisp. It's a joke. Quisp was a cereal that Quaker Oats put out back in the 60s, and they hired the company that Jay Ward, right, from Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Right.
Yes.
He drew these two characters, Quisp and Quake. They had Quisp was the blue box, Quake was the red box. It was like a gag sort of a thing. And a couple of years ago, I'm walking through the grocery store, and there's a whole display of Quisp. I couldn't believe it. Like, it's a boutique thing that they reissue from time to time. And it has nothing to do with model railroading, but it's a very unusual response to your question.
Well, it does have something to do with model railroading because it's what kind of cereal would you put in that 70-ton hopper? So Quisp is your answer. Favorite model railroad scale?
HO.
Okay. True or false? Is N scale dead?
False.
All right.
I know it exists. I watched the videos from Joe. What's his name? Joe Desmond.
Yeah, Joe Desmond.
Right? You had him on a while ago.
Yes.
He's somewhere in New Jersey. He was a Conrail ad. I watched his YouTube videos. That's N scale.
Yeah.
So it's not dead. I don't know if it's growing or shrinking, but it's not dead.
Joe, you're getting a shout out, buddy. He's got a beautiful Conrail layout in N scale. Beautiful, well appointed railroad. I don't think it's dead so much as it's lost in the hobby. What's your favorite model railroad? This one, I think I know the answer to this one, but go ahead and give it a shot.
Yeah, you're right. Onondaga cutoff.
All right. The very Onondaga cutoff.
Dave believes the Onondaga cutoff.
Yeah. Who's the most? This will be a good question for you. This is a great question for you. Who's the most influential model railroader for you?
Well, I'm gonna answer that with my friend Jerry Dietzig, and the reason I put Jerry in that answer is that he was the one that really brought me into the hobby in the modern era for my modern era. Getting me interested in, operating on his layout, and then introducing me to all these other people that subsequently I was able to introduce Dave Abeles to a lot of these people, but it's become a really great circle of great people. And, I feel very welcomed by this whole crowd here in North Jersey. And Jerry, in addition, he has that column that he writes for Model Railroader on operations, which is great. He and I also share an interest in the Cumbres and Toltec Scenic Railroad. He's very involved out there as well. He lives in Colorado part of the year, and that's why I chose him as the most influential to me. There are plenty of other people I could say that have also influenced me, but I had to pick one, so I did.
Boy, I tell you, Bruce, this one's going to be tough.
It is. I'm going through a lot of paper right now.
Yeah, I know. Me too. Man, I'm running out of ink. And how did Jerry get you? How did you meet Jerry?
Met Jerry because of our mutual interest in the New York Susquehanna and Western Railway. His model railroad is based on the NYSNW, and I met him through Bob Mahowski.
Okay, and because you guys are both fans of that railroad. Select one of the following is your... Wow, this is a good question for you, too. Again, you're definitely a model railroader. Your main interest is in operations. Select one of the following is your favorite: bench work, track work, scenery, or electrical. Okay. So if you were working
here's why.
Okay, yeah, and here's why.
Because I'm not necessarily proficient at putting in static graphs or any of that stuff. But at Dave's Railroad especially, and at some others, I have been able to help with what I'll call the typographical scenery. So Dave's employee timetable that he gives to all his operators looks just like a Conrail timetable would have. And I was part of Dave and I put that together. We found examples and mimic the typeface, et cetera, et cetera. That's the sort of thing that interests me. And we say typographical scenery helps, carry the brand, so to speak, beyond just what's in the room. But you're walking around with a timetable in your pocket. It looks like a Conrail timetable.
Yeah, it helps to create the illusion is the wrong word. It helps to create the scenario or the scene or the feeling of what it is you're trying to recreate through the railroad.
Yeah. It reinforces. Dave and I were just talking about this morning. That
reinforces. Yeah. It reinforces the yeah. And you and Dave were talking about this?
Something along these lines, that model railroading is really like the first form of role play.
Yeah, we're not that kind of show, Dave. Or Rich, I mean. That threw me off, Bruce.
It did.
Yeah.
I'll take a point off you.
Yeah, take a point off of me. Go ahead, Rich. Yeah. Well, you know what I've always said? It's like a game of Monopoly. If you don't do it properly, if you don't play Monopoly by the rules and you just kind of play by the rules, it ruins the game for everybody else. So if you want a model railroad to really operate properly, you have to embrace whatever operating system that particular layout owner has, and you have to try to live by those rules and try to do it the way he would like it done.
Correct.
Yeah.
And, it might not be your preferred way of doing it, but, I tend to be more of a rules follower in life. So if that's the rules that somebody's established, that I'm going to try and honor their wishes and try and follow them.
Yeah, I think Bruce would back me up on this. I've had, as far as rules and following them, I've had a lot of experience with that.
Oh, absolutely. And you're also a good observer of rules. At times,
absolutely. Let's see, where are we? Oh, yeah. This is a good one. if you could give somebody starting out in the hobby just one item and cost was no object, what would it be?
More time in the day to allow them to build their layout without missing out on family time. Right.
That answers Scott. I'm going to have to mark that one down because I'm not sure I've never seen that you could buy time anywhere. But of course, you could get somebody a maid or something, I guess, and they could do. Yeah. Let me just make a little note here. More time. Okay. Let's see here. Favorite train event of the year, model or prototype?
In New Jersey, there's a train show, flea market, whatever you want to call it, that occurs in March. It's operated by the Jersey Central chapter of the NRHF at the Mother Seton High School. And that is the annual New Jersey show where you go and see everybody. It's like a much smaller version, of course, of what happens up in Springfield. It's not national. But when I go there, I run into 20 or 30 people that I have gotten to know over the last 35 years. And, I'll buy a few things, but I go more to see people.
Yeah, exactly. And you're probably looking for more in the paperwork kind of thing and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right.
Have you ever been?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, have you ever been to Springfield or?
Last year was my first time.
Oh, okay.
Matter of fact, that was the first time I ever saw you. I just saw you walking by. We didn't talk or anything, but I was like, oh, that's him.
Well, he gets that quite a lot.
Yeah.
You were intently walking to, I think you were taking a picture or something, like you were trying to find a ladder or something like that. But
okay.
In any event.
All right. Well, next time, if you go this year, make sure you come over and say hi. All right. You can buy me a drink if you want. Where would you buy most of your I'm not going to ask you that question because you don't really buy model railroad supplies, do you?
No. I exactly. Right.
Yeah. Do you prefer regular?
Okay. Well, hold on. Let me rephrase. If you were looking for prototype paperwork or that type of thing, where would you procure that?
Excellent.
Well, the Jersey Central show, like I mentioned, there are some other train shows around here that have a little bit more paper than maybe the routine. I've never been much on eBay because I refuse to spend a lot of money on stuff that I already have a basement full of stuff I need to get rid of, But I have certainly seen that there's stuff out there on eBay.
Okay. Bruce, do you constantly eat in that house? It sounds like there's always somebody in the kitchen.
I know.
Well, do you guys eat 24/7 kind of thing?
No, I've got a kid who just kind of wanders around and eats when he feels like it.
All right. Do you prefer regular beer or light beer?
I'll say regular. As we discussed, I think a few minutes ago, I drink cider.
Right. So regular beer or light
cider
beer?
Is not light, so it's regular. That's why I said regular.
Yeah, okay.
That's my logic.
Bruce?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm having some sort of a spell. Because I'm thinking at the end, I read this question as, do you prefer regular beer or light beer, and why do you prefer that?
That's the way I heard it. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like I feel like I'm getting a lot more information than I need.
Like the vertigo kicking in again?
Yeah, the vertigo's kicking in. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I'm afraid to ask these next questions. Salty or sweet?
Salty.
Dogs or cats?
I'll say cats because my daughter brought one home from college. We've never had a cat or a dog, but now we have a cat.
Okay, does your daughter live with you?
Yeah, both my daughters live with me.
Oh, great.
This one just graduated and had gotten a cat while she was at school, and now she lives here.
Perfect. And what's the cat's name?
Her full name is Tortellini, but my daughter calls her Lena.
Oh, okay. And how far outside of New York City, outside of Manhattan, do you guys live?
As the crow flies, we're about 30 miles.
All right. How far from Dave are you?
45-minute ride.
Okay.
If you ever were to look at a map of the highways in this area, you'll see that there's an interstate loop around New York City, Interstate 287.
Mm-hmm.
And I live just outside of that loop.
Oh, okay. How long have you lived there?
I live in the town of Denville, and I've lived here for 22 years.
And what was it? You were born in New Jersey?
Yep. Spent my whole life in New Jersey.
And so whereabouts were you born in New Jersey?
Well, the hospital was in Teaneck, New Jersey, but my parents lived in a neat little village called Ridgefield Park.
Right.
In Bergen County, which is maybe 7 miles from New York City.
Right.
And then when I was young, my parents bought a house in a town called Pequannock, and that's where I was raised.
Okay. I have a message for Dave Abelies. Dave, if you're listening, when you're asking him a question, when you guys are operating the model railroad, it's like, how do either one of you guys get a word in edgewise? Because Rich likes to clarify all his answers, and you can't stop talking. Where are we now? Oh yeah, Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
Favorite hot dog condiment?
Golden spicy brown mustard.
Ah, excellent. Do you ever put relish on your dog?
Yep.
Good man.
Sauerkraut?
Yeah.
But favorite would be, I have to have the mustard.
Yeah, you gotta have mustard. Have you ever been bungee jumping?
No.
If you were a beer can, what size would you be?
This is a very challenging question for someone who doesn't drink beer.
Well, you drink cider beer. That's what I call it. I don't call it cider. I call it cider beer. I said, do you have one of those cider? When I go into a bar, I say, what cider beers do you have? Because that's really what it is. It's beer with cider, or it's cider with beer.
Okay, so I'll say, what size would you be? I'd be cider bottle size.
Okay. Okay, so yeah. So if you were a beer can, what size would that be?
Regular.
There you go. This is going to be tough. This next one is going to be a killer. How many pairs of shoes do you own?
Okay, give me a second here. 12.
Wow. You got probably. Do you have to wear work boots on the railroad, or are you mostly in the office all the time?
I'm in the office, but I have a pair of boots in my office, and I have a pair of boots at home.
Yeah.
For when I do go out in the field, got to have safety shoes.
Absolutely. And when you go out in the field, it's to see on site to see a particular trackage or something like that.
Yeah, right. If you're going to do a walk through a location where something's going to happen or what have you, I have to go through safety training and things like that.
Yeah.
And, wear green vest and safety glasses, hard hat, and boots.
And how long is your ride into the station, into the office from where you live? I'm assuming you take the transit?
I do, yeah. So I live literally about 800 feet from the tracks in my town. So it just takes a couple minutes to walk down the hill to the train station. And then I am on the train for about 45 minutes. And then it takes a little bit longer because the train station that this line serves in Newark is about a mile from where my office is.
Okay. Do you think, here's an interesting question for you. Do you think Dave Abelies pronounces Newark correctly? Because he kind of goes, Newark. I think it's more of a Newark. I think the way you pronounce it is more. I think he's just, getting carried away.
But, the city in Delaware that's spelled the same way is Newark.
Yeah, that's true. Do you know how to pronounce Toronto? Yeah, the second T is silent. Never pronounce the second T. If you want people from Toronto to know that you're not from Toronto, pronounce the second T.
Okay. I was only in Toronto once in 1989 for one night, so I don't have a lot of experience there.
See a Leaf game?
No, I was transferring from I had ridden the Canadian this was, a month before VIA switched over from the CP route to the CN route. I wanted to ride through the spiral tunnels. I rode from Vancouver across.
Well, that's another thing we can talk about when we have you on the show again. Okay, here's a question for you. So it's the middle of the night and the smoke alarm goes off. Now, it turns out there is, in fact, a fire in your house, but it's turns out not to be much, but that it's the right thing to do is to get everybody out of the house the safe thing to do is get everybody out of the house in a hurry because it is, in fact, a fire. So you jump out of bed. It's middle of the night. You jump out of bed. You pull on you throw on your socks. You grab your slippers. And what T-shirt would you grab before you ran out onto the street?
Besides the one I was wearing.
Yeah. So do you wear one? And do you wear a T-shirt in bed?
Well, I wear a shirt. That's for sure.
Oh, like a dress shirt?
No. Sometimes in the winter it's a long sleeve. I'll call it a long sleeve T-shirt.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Not like a shirt and does it have bunnies on it or something?
Trains. Come on, trains.
Oh, okay. So if you come up with an answer,
I would grab whichever one was at the front of the drawer.
Okay. Well, if you ever get an AML shirt, make sure you put that one on. Because the orange.
But since I don't have one, I wasn't going to go there.
Yeah. Well, you could always get one. The answer could have been if I had one. The reason this question has
that would sound like too much explanation.
Yeah, we certainly wouldn't want that. So the origin of this question is Bruce expressed his true love for the podcast when he had to rummage through a pile of T-shirts and find his yellow AML shirt. He would have been out of the house about 3 minutes faster, but he had to rummage around and find his shirt. All right. What's your favorite kind of pie?
Blueberry.
What is your favorite Bobby Goldsboro song?
See the funny little clown.
Oh, there you go. That's an interesting answer. Boy, that might have saved him a lot of pain at the end. And when was that a hit? I don't remember it. See that funny little clown. I don't remember that one, but I think I vaguely remember it though. I think
it's the, obviously I cheated. I looked this up. It's the second highest hit behind Honey that he had.
Okay. One thing, while we admire cheating here at the old AML network, we don't publicly admit to it. If you were a superhero, what sort of powers would you have?
I'd be Direction Man.
Direction Man.
Yes, all my life I have been the person that people have asked how to get from here to there. So even though GPS has somewhat replaced that, for a time, do you remember there was a GPS called TomTom?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So I used to be called Rich. Because people always ask me how to get places.
Okay. How would you get to Syracuse from your house?
380-81.
There you go. Nice. What do you think your costume would look like? Like be just like a onesie? I'm thinking it would be like a spandex onesie, but it would be a map. The whole thing would be a map.
That's what I would think.
Yeah. And you'd even have a cape.
Print of a map on it.
Yeah, and then you'd even have a cape, and it would be a map. Everything would be a map. Mm-hmm. What do you think it would be a map of? Like New Jersey or the tri-state area or what?
Yeah, I would say New Jersey.
Yeah, right. Here's an interesting question while we're on the subject of superheroes. Why don't most superheroes have pockets? Like you think of Superman or Batman or Spider-Man. None of these guys have pockets.
I guess with their superpowers, they don't need change.
That's a good thought.
Yeah.
So, Lyle, have you taken the auto train? I know you talked about it before.
I never have. I see it frequently go by me when I'm out bicycling in Florida, but no, I've never taken it.
Your question about pockets is what's spurring this distraction here that's going to cost me points, but it's worth bringing up. Years ago, my family, we took the auto train, and when we got back in the car, when we got back to Virginia, all the change in the, like the ashtray or whatever in the van had been cleaned out, gone. Clearly taken by one of the people that was driving the car on or off the train. And my suggestion to Amtrak was that they should provide jumpsuits for those employees that didn't have pockets, so that they'd have no place to steal the people's change.
Wow, nice one. I like that. That's a good suggestion. And and if they did them like a spandex onesie, there'd be like no place for them to put the change.
No hiding spots.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever told the story about how I managed to hold the ferry between Port Angeles and Vancouver Island, Victoria. I brought the whole thing to a complete standstill because of something I did. That's a story for a day. Have you ever had? This is a tough one. I'm not sure of the answer on this one. I think I do think. Here's the question: have you ever had a brush with the law?
I have been pulled over twice in my life
by state troopers or something.
Local police,
right? For speeding or something.
No, not for speeding. One time, it was for expired inspection.
Oh.
And the other time was because I forgot to renew my registration.
Oh. What kind of car do you drive?
I have two. I have a Chevy Silverado pickup and a Honda CR-V.
The Chevy Silverado is a sweet ride.
Yeah, it's a 2003. It's vintage, but it's in good shape because I don't commute in it. As I mentioned earlier, I walk to the train station. So
yeah.
I just use it for moving stuff around and what have you.
Yeah. What color is it? Is it red?
It's a kind of a bright blue.
Oh, that'd be cool. What color is the CR-V? Isn't silver, is it?
No, it's maroon.
Okay, cool. So how many miles do you actually have on the Silverado? Let me take a guess. 2003. You don't drive it to work. You use it for this and that. I think it's got 42,000 miles.
No, it's more than that. It's over 100 now.
Oh, okay.
Low 100s.
All right.
CR-V is a 2005, has 187 on it.
Wow, nice one. If you buy a new vehicle, what will it be?
Right now, I would probably, if I could afford it, I'd probably buy an Outback.
Subaru Outback, yeah.
Yeah.
But not silver, right?
No, I'm not big on silver.
Yeah.
My daughter has a Forester, and she likes it a lot.
Yeah.
And I would just want to get the slightly bigger version.
Bruce?
Yes?
Crazy coincidence. He'd been pulled over twice by police in his life.
Mm-hmm.
I, too, have been pulled over twice.
Yeah, at least that. That's twice this week, right?
Maybe. Rich, have you ever been on TV?
Yeah, interestingly, just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and I saw it.
Oh, did you? Yeah, I was driving home from North Carolina. My mom lives down in North Carolina now, and I went down for Thanksgiving. And I had planned to come home on Saturday to avoid all the traffic. And then the forecast for winter weather for Sunday caused the rest of the world to come home on Saturday. So the traffic stunk, and I was, as I tend to do, I hate sitting in traffic. I'll go miles out of my way to avoid it. And I was diverting onto different roads, and I ended up at a service plaza on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. And they had a reporter there asking people about their travel for the weekend. And he asked me. I had 20 seconds on TV, and thank God the cameraman cropped it nice and tight so he couldn't see all the potato chip crumbs that were on my shirt. And
what's your go-to potato chip when you're on the road?
Well, it's interesting. Pennsylvania has a lot of different small potato chip companies, and my favorite is Snyder's of Berlin Maui onion chips.
That actually sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it's a pretty different sort of a chip.
Who's your best?
I can't get them in New Jersey, but when you're traveling through Pennsylvania, you can get them.
So, who's your best friend?
That is a really tough question. I have several friends that I'm very close with, and interestingly, most of them go back to my early days as a rail enthusiast in the early 1980s. I met most of them through being involved with the Tri-State Chapter NRHS. Lou, my friend Lou, I will put him down as my best friend.
All right, Lou. Does Lou have a last name?
Lou Capuano.
Lou Capuano. Does he work for New Jersey Transit too?
He did at one time, but he does not now.
All right, cool. What's your favorite zoo animal?
Kangaroo.
That's good. I don't know if we've ever had kangaroo, Bruce.
Giraffe seems to be the most popular.
Yeah, giraffe is easy.
First name kangaroo.
Yeah, I don't think giraffe is easily the most popular. Do you prefer
having been? Go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say I haven't been to Australia. That's why I picked it.
All right. Okay. Here's something. It's a piece of advice that I got years ago from somebody, and it says it was, when you're in another town, another city, don't go to the zoo because the animals look the same as the zoo in your own town. So, like, if you go to San Francisco, there's no point in going to that zoo because the animals look just the same as they do in the New York City Zoo.
Yeah, I understand that concept, but I would say that if you go to Australia, the animals in the zoo there are going to be pretty different than what you're going to see in most U.S. zoos.
Yeah, because they're Australian. They all talk with an accent.
Well, no, they're all upside down.
Do you prefer baseball or hockey?
Hockey.
If you could only choose one professional sports team to root for, would it be the Detroit Tigers or the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Leafs.
There you go. Good answer. If you were stranded on a desert island with just one person, would you prefer it to be with Bruce, the moderately agitated male boy, or Lionel?
I'll say Bruce.
Okay.
Do you want to hear why?
Sure.
Sure, why not?
I'm agitated now, so yeah.
Well, because part of the time Bruce would be on mute, so it would be quiet.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's good for about minus 40 points.
Yeah. And finally,
you'd also probably be better at finding water.
Yeah, everybody says that. I think I'd be better at finding beer, though. Finally, the last question is, what's your favorite podcast?
Obviously, The Modeler's Life.
There you go. Beautiful.
Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you, Bruce. I hear you, buddy. There's a long night ahead of us.
Okay. Shall I start off?
Yeah, I might as well.
3 questions before we got to the first question right off the bat. That's not good. So I said minus 300, but I lied. I was only like minus 38 for that before you got going. Life seemed to go along fairly well for the most part. He did have he had a lot of hesitations. I was wondering if my system had cut out and I've been lost you all, but what size beer can question, that's pretty straightforward, I thought, but yet he seemed to have difficulty grasping that one. Most of the others weren't too bad. Kangaroo, good. We haven't had kangaroo, so that was a good one. Lisa's okay with me, and by the way, they won in the game they played tonight. This was recorded. Tigers would be acceptable as well because that was my baseball team. The desert island one, I was kind of hoping he might pick you, but anyhow, he picked me. So yeah, we gave him some positive points there. So what else? The direction guy was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was.
Although I kind of imagine him like on his suit, he have like that Google pointy thing, the round thing with the red thing with the black dot and the thing.
Oh yeah, you mean for taking the pictures?
Yeah, well, yeah, for like where you are, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That one, yeah. So, but yeah, map that'd be good. Good answer on his most influential model railroader, the guy who got him into the hobby. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. Okay. I got to get going here. This goes into that. Whoa! Surprisingly, 2.77.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy how the math works in this thing.
It is. It's always amazes me. You look at all the the negative numbers that are out there. Somehow he ends up with 2.77.
Yeah. Well, here's where I'm at. You know how sometimes when you're flying on a commercial airliner, and you feel like this is me, and I feel like I'm a fairly confident flyer these days, but as you're thundering down the runway, you'll have that moment where you're thinking to yourself, this plane's awfully full, and shouldn't he have taken off by now? Shouldn't we be rotating? Shouldn't the wheel be coming up? And that's kind of the way I felt before we started the questions. When we had all those questions coming at us, I started thinking, is this thing even going to get off the ground, or are we just going to end up in a heap at the end of the runway? So I was nervous the whole time. I was.
Yes. I can see that.
Yeah, for the whole thing, I was nervous. And then, we went along pretty good. Favorite prototype railroad, that was a good one. Time travel, that's where he started to stumble, because that took quite a while to get that answer.
I think maybe he's in a time warp.
Yeah. And that was the first indication that a lot of the answers were like, he has a reason for. Yeah. Because it's not called Kelly questions and what are your thoughts?
Explanations.
Yeah, Kelly questions and what are your thoughts? It's like questions. And then he constantly was asking, like he made a few references about whether or not our questions were any good, which I thought was a little,
it was cheeky. It was so much cheeky.
Yeah, it was cheeky. That's exactly what it was. And then that whole Quisp and Quake thing, it was
that was pretty entertaining, actually, because I remember seeing those years ago, and to have that one come out. So I would hope the next time he goes to Dave's place, he has a box of Quisp with him.
Yeah, that would be ideal, because it was Dave Abelies that invented that question.
It is.
And but what threw me was, it was a simple answer, right? Again, it was this explanation, because what kind of cereal would you use? It would be Quisp. End of story, because it is in fact a cereal.
But to give him credit, though, he sensed your hesitation on that, because you're going, what the hell is Quisp? And so he explained to us what Quisp was.
Yeah. And then it's cereal. And then when I really lost interest at regular beer or light beer. And it was going to be a cider bottle or something. And it's kind of like, well, okay. But is it regular beer or light beer? What size of can would you be? It was all through these beer questions, you really struggled. And apparently at Dave Abelies' place, it's nothing but, the guys are drinking 1 or 5 wobbly pops. Everybody's walking around with a wobbly pop. And so you'd think he'd have a pretty quick answer on that.
It's not like he hasn't seen one before.
Yeah, exactly. And a kangaroo question was okay. But and the Bobby Goldsboro answer was
a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
But he didn't, he didn't know. And again, we ran into problems when I asked him, why don't superheroes have pockets? And then he needed to give me an explanation about, all the change in his car was going when he took the train. A lot of explanations, a lot of filler. It's kind of like a Hallmark movie that, this is an hour-long show and they turn it into an hour and a half.
Well, no, really, it's like a 5-minute show. They turn it into an hour-and-a-half movie.
Yeah, exactly. So at the end, there's that little-known rule of if you can't answer, and then there was the best friend one. That's that little rule. As soon as you start bringing more than one person into it, then of course it's an automatic deduction. So I came up with, surprisingly, again, I was surprised too. The scoring system, the way it works, I came up with 1.2.
That's not bad, That's pretty good, all things considered. And people talk about, to make fun of the 395 volume set of scoring rules we have, but they've been developed for just this purpose, to make sure that the scores adequately reflect the answers we hear.
Exactly. I mean, it's our forefathers have worked on these. They
worked long and hard on it, and we got to give them credit for putting them all down there, so they are there for us to reference if we need them.
It's centuries old. Rich, that was an experience.
Yeah, bring your melon over here.
In a way, it reminded me of.
Okay, I was going to say, bring your melon over here.
It reminded me what you guys just.
Okay, Rich, go.
Wait a minute.
What kind of melon?
Time out. I just looked at my score again, and I didn't realize it was upside down. It's minus 2.1.
Listening to you guys describe me, you reminded me of that podcast review show you did a couple years ago.
Oh yeah,
where they they were critiquing your podcast.
Yeah, and then the guy kept saying, "Why don't you got to get off in the weeds? You get off in the weeds too much." And I'm like, "Well, that's what it's all about.
You got to introduce everybody right away."
Yeah, well, that's right. You got to introduce everybody right away. Yeah, they didn't seem to understand that we really didn't care.
Yeah,
they thought we were serious. That's cute when people think we're serious.
Yes.
Well,
what I was trying to say is for Rich to get his melon over here, we'll sign his tinfoil hat for him.
Yeah, we'll sign the tinfoil hat and we'll send you on your way, Rich. And then we'll have you back to tell us your Cumbers and Toltec stories. What other things do you have to tell us that you did?
The Via train ride.
The Via train ride. That's another. Every single time we do these things, people will, at the end, they'll go, "Oh, and I didn't get to tell you about this, and I didn't get to," and I'm like, "Well, you weren't, you're not tied to the wall here. You can speak up." You got more interesting. Everybody, Rich, how about this? You've been a lifelong rail fan. This hobby will never go away because people are just too interested in trains. What is the magic of railroading, Rich? You work in the industry. What is the magic of railroading?
I think it's that it sort of fills this gap between, you have a car. Anybody can have a car. So yeah, you can be interested in cars. You can buy a car. You can drive your own car. You can't buy your own train unless you're Jason Tron or somebody like that. But you can still get close to them. You can see them. You can take pictures of them. You can ride on them. If you're an airplane fan, I mean, I guess you could buy a Cessna or something like that. But if you're like the big airliners, you're not going to buy one of them. And
as much as I
just feel like trains there's something you get closer to.
As much as I hate to admit this, I think you may have hit on something. You can, in fact, it's very common for people to own their own planes and get the same basic feeling from flying any size plane. All planes fly the same. So if you own a plane of any size, you can get the feeling of flying. But it's very, very rare that anybody owns a train. Right? Trains are just something you can't really purchase. You can't purchase a train because then you need land to ride on it. And I mean, there are a few people that own railroads, but the number of people that can actually purchase a train and do whatever they want with it is incredibly small.
Sure. And that's why we have model railroaders, right? You're doing it in miniature.
Yeah.
But we also have rail enthusiasts that like to take pictures or they like to go ride on them, whatever. It's a very broad hobby.
It is a very broad hobby, but I think like when Kelly comes up with a pearl of wisdom, I find it unsettling, and I'm finding, that you've discovered what the secret of why people like railroading.
I have to tell you, Bruce Kelly had one of the funniest things I ever heard on your podcast was when he was all excited about going on the Tiger Cruise with his daughter-in-law. And somebody, I don't remember who it was, and he was complaining about how
the water's too noisy, the stairs are too steep.
Go ahead, Rich.
Well, this was before he went. And he was all excited about the trip, but he was saying, "Oh, but if they sound general quarters, I want to have a real job. I want to do something important. I don't want to just go to be sequestered to the lower decks." And somebody in the background goes, "Beep, beep, beep. Is there a model railroader on board? We need help with the DCC system on the bridge right away."
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing. It was something like that. That was one of the funniest lines I ever heard on your show.
Yes, I remember that as well. Kelly is an endless supply of something.
Yes. Of questions, for sure.
Yeah. The question of Kelly. All right, let's call this an... Oh, yeah, Bruce, can you give out our email? I knew there was something we had to do.
Yeah, it's our email address if you'd want to write in and get a detailed explanation of how the hell he scored so well. Our email address is modeler'slife, modelers with one L, modeler'slife@gmail.com.
And we have a website, modeler'slife.com. Go there and you'll find out all kinds of really cool stuff. Rich, are you ready for the end?
I am.
So remember, Remember, a Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
Gravely tractor owners.
And now it's time for the New Jersey Transit Elevator Escalator Report. Whether you want it or not. Take it away, Dave.
Good morning, everybody. Plainfield westbound's out this morning for some door modifications. They're going to adjust some of the equipment hardware that came in yesterday, so that should be back later this afternoon. Ridgewood number 2 is out. Vendors en route to take a look at the doors on that one. Those doors are open. At Woodbridge, we had a report of an ADA customer stuck in the elevator. The vendor went there and found the elevator operating normally, so that's back in service. Newark Penn number 9 is out with a skirt panel replacement project, same as last week. And Secaucus number 2, that's one that's out for its step chain replacement and a lower carriage assembly adjustment. So that's still going to be with a good date there of December 1.
It's another Lincoln Homer.